Hello, beautiful souls. So I got 12 minutes here. I know I'm behind on videos. I've got some made, posting them slowly. I just got to do them on days where I have my health back and my energy back. And I've been doing some very deep work to get that done and to go through that Mara and the Maya and the Amara of the soul, the Amira. Put all those together. We're all floating in this sea of the soul, trying to figure out our spiritual calling. So I've been really sick on and off, but I got through my crown chakra, and then my crown chakra being so overactive in my third eye that it was literally, I was in agony. And also having infections that doctors couldn't figure out what they were and what was going on, and I really feel like it was because I got stuff clearing. I have, like, now in my throat, the parathyroid that's supposed to be dead is now the other side's really acting up. And it's funny how it's just been after doing all these cleansings, not funny, it's interesting doing all these cleansings, one thing after another in my chakra system via meeting my own shadow externally and other people. So that's what I want to talk about. Basically how unawoken people or people who are in spiritual forms of psychosis from being abused as children and having those upper chakras popped open, which I've known about for a very long time because I went through it as a child, and many other children I know, my own children did, my husband, ex-husband did, my ex-mates. All of that is via the actual demoted energies that want to be passed around through the feet, the soul, the ped-o. So, sadly, it seems in this day and age, many of us, if not all of us, have gone through that kind of manipulation in some way. So why? Why so much suffering in this world? Well, before the new age comes in the yuga, which we're already in the new yuga, as it climbs, these things have to be washed away. So like a demon or a pimple or an infection, if it's going to heal on its own, it has to come to a head where not only the person who is attacked is seen, but the perpetrator is seen and dealt with. And at first, that's going to have to be harsh, and I pity those people. But then it's going to come to a realization that these were people that were most likely also abused and were in the same place metaphysically and mentally as those that they perpetrated. Whether they're adults or children doing that, I've learned so much about that in the last 12 years, or no longer than that, 15 now of my life. Maybe more, because it's been a lifelong lesson. But it's one that's been so prominent in the whole of my life that I've had to break through the worst of perpetrators and the worst of people so that I could see my shadow in order to heal it. Now, realize that's the mission I chose to be on. Not just subconsciously in my shadow, but spiritually and shamanically, I made that choice. And I probably wouldn't call myself necessarily a shaman. I do have some animal guides. I have ancestor guides. So yeah, it could be called that, but I'm pretty much, as I've always said, a conglomerate of everything, because the times that we're in, we're moving through everything we've ever been. As I mentioned, when I work with the sun and I channel, I see animal eyes of everything I've ever been in my past life. Some human eyes too, but that's for another day. So when you see perpetrators as just vessels that 4D creatures and spirits and demoted energies have taken over, And they rule over their mind these dead ancestors, these ancestors that are evil. And they promise these people things so that they can live and experience through them. And then that person is destroyed by that infiltration, that worm, that parasite from the fourth dimension. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person is bad and evil. It means that they gave up on their self, on the love of their soul, on the love of their vessel, and they've been so tortured and so tormented to the point where they're broken down completely. Now, for those people who know, most people, when they're that messed up, they'll get on meds and stay on them. People who don't continue to ruin their lives and everybody else's around them. And so I'm not saying don't take meds ever. I'm very thankful for them, though I've transmuted my stuff through suffering and through very little allopathic meds, and the rest have been naturopathic and spiritual means. So I'm not by any means judging anyone else, because I have met these parasitical minds as a shaman over and over and over again, and so many men and women and people from the time I was born here as a child. And now I see them for what they really are. Like they're the Mara trying to trick the Buddha. And the Buddha has to keep on going through this, watching these illusions go by through the mind and through the external, until it realizes I am not that. Okay? Now the demons, the 4D, they are that. They have embraced being that, the animal head, the lower aspect. Now I'm not saying that the Egyptian netters and these gods were originally that. No, they've devolved to that. But they're coming up again, and we're coming up again, and the gods in us are coming up again. And the energy of the whole earth and all those things that have suffered terribly in order to transform as a butterfly will, a worm, all those things, they're going to be coming up. To the point where, sorry, I had a cop just needed to get by. So to the point where we're having to all see these things. And those of us who aren't willing to see the Mara and just say, hey, you're not real, I'm not real, the image you cast at me isn't real, it doesn't matter, because I'm everything and I am enlightened, and my everything in my world is going to change, and it's all going to be enlightened. And that's when the Buddha ascends or disappears, whether you want to think of that physically or metaphorically. Obviously it's still metaphorically in my life. It's the same as Christ having to die and transcend. It's the same as Christ meeting Satan in the wilderness when he was fasting, and all these things that the lower dimensional aspects want to experience through you, aka your shadow and yourself, you're tempted by, or they come before you and they pass through you, and you realize they're not you, or you don't want that for your life. But people that I know that are very mentally ill and very damaged, they don't have that full option. Thankfully, my daughter was sent here to OFF me, one of my daughters, and told me, and like our whole exposure with those things when they came out in full force in 2013, 2008, something like that, they were real, they were here, they were in the tangible to teach us. And now I can look at them as teachers, thank you, Crow, I can look at them as teachers, and I can respect them as such, but I also know that they're nothing. And I have to put them in the place of being that. Now, if the people attach to those bodies, like also the physical, real, tangible story of Buddha, not the Buddha kings, but other Buddhas who have come along, one of them, lamas and Buddhas, they have had their enemies come and sit in their court and torment them to the very end. And who is there crying at their funeral most vehemently? Their enemy. So we don't know how we touch people when we transcend. But we need to and are required to, if we're the one who's awake to it, to transcend in whatever way it is, on whatever level we're called to be the transcendence. And not to blame, look at, and hate on the other person who is the lower aspect, who your ancestors and the 4D demoted energies that are still here in all the earth, because as I've said before, being one of those mud flood, mud fossil, mud earth people, that this whole earth is created literally by things that were dead, that came out of space, that fell out of space, whether you want to say that's dead planets or asteroids or dragons or, whatever, planets, Tiamat, however you want to put that story, I'm one of them people. And so everything here is dead unless it's awakened to itself. So you're dead. And unless you're awakened to yourself and realize the Buddha in this lifetime, or the Lama, or the Christ in this lifetime, those things are going to continue to trigger you. And as long as you're here, they're going to trigger you in some form and in some way, even if you love them, because that's what they're called here to do. It's not like an insult. So I don't have much time left in the camera, so I just wanted to say that. Just wanted to say that before I sign off, and I'll make some other videos. Thank you.